The private sector creates all prosperity. All wealth in the world comes from people working to create goods and services for each other. That's the true wealth. And when you take 80% of government out of the middle, all the people that are doing these frictional jobs that slow things down, that in some countries require bribes, that also have to get paid through taxation. I mean, we could reduce taxes or run much smaller deficits if a bunch of the currency didn't vanish into paying all of these government bureaucrats.
Absolutely. And without, their payment, the payment isn't, I'll tell you something that breaks my heart. The United States is now ranked the 22nd cleanest country in the world. We just slipped this year from 18 to 22. Wow. How does that make you feel?
Horrible. And we have this.
Well, I remember we should be top 3. Anything less than top 3 is unacceptable. Yeah, that's America's brand.
We used to be number 2 in economic freedom, and I don't know if the latest report is out, but because of the tariffs and stuff, I expect us to drop back. I think we were at 16 for a while and made it back up to number 12, and I have a feeling we're going to be falling a lot further with the trade wars that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is when you look at the relationship between economic freedom and prosperity and lifespan, the people in the freest countries that are able to deal with anybody anywhere else in the world and have the fewest barriers to going into business and running your business, and those countries have the longest lifespans. The countries there's I think it's 157 countries that are being audited annually now by the Fraser Institute. The freest ones, the top quarter, they live about almost 20 years longer than the bottom quarter, where the government is trying to run everything. And Venezuela, I believe, used to be number 32, and now they're number 157 out of 157.
Listen, Venezuela is such a heartbreak.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's the end result, though, of this thought that government is good. The reason that all of this has happened is because the population was promised that by Hugo Chavez that he was going to lift everybody out of poverty into the middle class by taking everything away from the rich, and he nationalized the oil companies and so on. And once you start down that road, when the government nationalizes one sector, there's disequilibria that happens. There's energy that builds up, pressures in the free market, and stuff comes squirting out of their peripheral vision. They can't see it, that it's happening, but there's unintended consequences, and then they have to regulate that thing, and then they have to regulate the next thing, because it's this chain of events that leads them into this distorted economy where it's just the politicians that end up being the wealthy class, and everybody else becomes impoverished. I believe the average Venezuelan has lost more than 18 pounds in the past 2 decades.
Not 2 decades, 2 years. 2 years. Wow. It's a country starving to death. Yeah, I agree with you. Watching socialists talk it's like romper room. It's folks who's this Anastasia AOC.
Oh yeah.
This gal has all kinds of ideas on how to completely change the entire construction market in America. And this is someone who's probably never lifted a hammer, and they have an idea of how we're going to spend the next 5 years of our GDP. It's romper room. And and in Venezuela, what's even more, besides the romper room of the central planning economics, is once you have that kind of concentrated power, you get corruption. So at least a third of the revenue of Venezuela since Hugo Chavez took over, then under Maduro, at least a third of the revenue has been stolen. Wow. The oil revenue that should have flown into the government.
Yeah, Milton Friedman said that economic policies shouldn't be judged on their intention. They should be judged by their results.
Mhm.
And the thing is, people like Cortez, she hasn't studied any monetary history, and she's supposed to have a degree in economics, I thought. And it amazes me she doesn't seem to know anything about economics.
Yeah.
I haven't followed her that much. I view a lot of the news as short-term noise that keeps people's eye off of the real ball, the big stuff that's happening.
All right.
So, we were talking about gold and silver a little while back, and I came across a quote, and I looked it up. This is Herman Cain, who was a 2012 presidential candidate, but he said, "Gold is kryptonite to big spending politicians. It is to the moochers and looters in government what sunlight and garlic are to vampires."
Good for him. Good for him.
Is that wonderful or what?
Good for him. Did I hear there was talk of him being appointed to the Fed? And then did it happen, or did they back down?
I have no idea. I've been, the front page of my website has stories every day. And so I check a bunch of those out. And that's where one of them was that Trump was considering appointing him to the Federal Reserve. And he's a gold standard advocate. I'm on record, though, as saying that I don't like gold standards. It's just another scam and a way of cheating gold. If they used real gold and didn't have a representative standard where they could institute some sort of fractional reserve thing, every time they've done this, with every revision of the monetary systems since the classical gold standard, each one has been sort of a baby step off of gold. We had a 40% reserve ratio on the gold exchange standard between the wars, and then it fell to where there was no specified ratio under the Bretton Woods system, but I believe it had fallen to around 8% that we actually had gold backing up the promises to pay gold. So for every dollar's worth of claim checks on gold, there was 8 cents worth of gold backing it up. That's just a scam. And we always end up paying the consequences of trying to cheat the free markets. And the government and Keynesian economists never learn this. If Keynesian economics worked, Japan would be rich, and you know what? Venezuela would be the richest country on the planet right now.
Right. Right.
So, you're chairman of T0 also, which is one of the companies in Medici, I believe, right?
Yes.
T0, were you aware that was the name of the car that inspired the Tesla Roadster?
No, I was not.
Oh, okay. I'll send you some info on it. But it's like the trade plus zero time, right? Is that what T0 stands for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's an instantaneous blockchain. You've removed the middleman again.
Yeah, we've removed the middleman. It's blockchain. It's a blockchain capital market. Which I like, because a fair amount of the mischief that goes on Wall Street goes on because trade and settlement have been separated, and it's in the gap that various games can be played. But in a blockchain capital market, all kinds of mischief that goes on Wall Street can't even occur. And the regulators get to see perfect visibility into the atomic level of the market. It's going to solve so many problems on Wall Street. It's going to solve so many problems. The retired CEO of NASDAQ said about a year ago that you're going to see in 5 years, everything is going to become a security token. Stocks and bonds, as they exist today, will be obsolete. Everything will be security token. Okay.
You said earlier that you've watched some of the episodes of Hidden Secrets of Money. I was wondering if you've been able to watch episodes 9 and 10 yet. They're the latest episodes, and they're connected together. It's a continuing episode.
I have not. I probably haven't watched it since number 8, since mine, but I've watched it up to 8 a couple different times. 1 to 8.
Well, one of the things that sort of saddens me is that 9 has about 3 times the views of 10, and 10 is the whole point. And it's about, these are the parallels between Rome, the Roman Empire, and the United States today, our empire, and we're going down a lot of the same roads. The similarities are just absolutely spooky. And
it's funny that you did that. I look for information on that all the time. I see that similarity. I assume you're talking about both the debasing of the currency, some changes in social mores, and did you get into it all, tax farming and what the tax system under Rome?
We got into a little of the taxation system in it, and then we got into some of the differences between the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. Because the Eastern Rome, a lot of people don't know that the Eastern Roman Empire survived for many, many years after the Western Roman Empire, the city of Rome and its possessions collapsed.
Another 1,000 years.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. A further 1,000 years.
What were the differences? What were the leading differences that made them successful?
Part of it was the soundness of their money. And that's an interesting thing. It was basically choosing a little bit more freedom and soundness of their money that led to having this success for another 1,000 years.
Gee,
so,
I gotta look.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could watch those episodes and we'll get together again sometime. But, right now, it seems like we're at this crossroads in history, this intersection between freedom and enslavement. And you're for freedom and liberty above all, it seems, in all of our conversations.
I'm very pro-freedom.
What?
I am very pro-freedom.
Yeah.
As Milton Friedman used to describe himself, I'm a small L libertarian and a small R Republican.
Okay. I'm just a classical liberal, and that's it. Basically, I have to say libertarian because somehow the socialists absconded with the word liberal. I'm
using it again. I give talks on the history of liberalism and all this stuff. They're up on YouTube, and I'm reclaiming it for us. Liberalism is what we have. When you're exactly right. In the 1930s, when they stopped being able to sell socialism as socialism, they started calling it liberalism. But it's not liberalism. It's concentrating power.
Right. In order for either of the major parties to be able to have wars, have this, we've got this phony monetary system, but they do have to sort of enslave and control us through taxation and the threat of the government taking everything from you or putting you in jail. Or if you resist and barricade yourself inside your house with a gun, they're going to come and kill you. And so we live under this threat of enslavement where they're taking part of our lifetimes away. We have to work all of the, I realize that we've got to live in a civilized society and that we do need laws. And this is one of the great hopes that I have for blockchain technology. And that's what episode 8 of Hidden Secrets of Money was all about, is that we can do this without the behemoth of government, and we can make it easier for everybody to play by the same set of rules and to be able to set up a business instantly and to be able to know what all the laws are and run things easily. Do you understand your tax return when you get it back from your CPA?
Of course not.
Neither do I. It's this huge thing that it costs so much to prepare these things when you're running any corporation that does any volume of business. And for the little guy trying to start a new business, it's really become a nightmare. And this is part of where all prosperity comes from. Somebody getting a good idea, going into business and trying to succeed and therefore change the world, because they become the new standard that everybody else has to compete against. And when people compete, everybody's life gets better. Everybody gets to purchase better things at a cheaper price. People are employed. This is really what creates prosperity. And I just see that right now we're at this intersection where freedom and liberty is threatened and enslavement can happen. And we're starting to see some of this, like China has these social credits now, and you can be banned from getting on aircraft and things like that. So they're starting to control people where they can sort of switch you off as a human being. And this is what scares me about, blockchain type technology being used for, say, a digital Fed dollar, the Federal Reserve crypto dollar, where they can track everything that you've done, everywhere that you go, everything that you buy. And if they don't like you, they can just freeze you out of the system.
I do worry about that. However, first of all, they can track you now everywhere. 97% of transactions are electronic, and so people are just dreaming if they think they're not everything they do can be tracked. In China, they've now, everywhere that money is used or drawn out of ATMs, they actually record the serial number. So even if you're using cash money, It's actually everything's being tracked. It's going to have its ups and downs. Actually, blockchain is going to allow us to recover quite a bit of our anonymity if a area called blockchain identification. Then there's 3 companies that are doing blockchain ID that respect a principle called self-sovereign identity. And self-sovereign identity means you're going to own your identity and your data and everything around it and be able to commercialize it if you want. So look for companies or this concept of self-sovereign identity you're going to hear more about.
Okay. So what do you think the average person can do?
Well, average person can do one thing if you're young. If things do turn down, be investing in your human capital. Human capital is something that doesn't get taken away from you in a downturn. So investing in human capital. Also, I know that you're a gold and silver bug. I think that it's only responsible to have some portion of your savings in a hard metal like gold or silver.
I'm actually not a gold and silver bug. I just believe that they're in their cycle right now and that they've got a lot of catching up to do for the expansion of the fiat currency supply. Throughout history, that's what I see, is that, they keep on expanding the currency supply, and then gold and silver, there's this period of time where they catch up. And during that period of time, there's great gains to be made in absolute purchasing power. And so other than that, they're sort of just dumb metals. But between that and distributed ledger technology, we're at this crossroads where liberty and freedom and people just dealing with one another can happen very quickly here. Or if people don't support this enough and try to, a lot of people think that crypto means Bitcoin, and it doesn't. It means something that can eventually run our entire power grid, including the nuclear power plants and dams and so on, and it can distribute energy. It can run the traffic system. These are things that have tremendous potential, and it's going to have a great impact on our life in the next 5 to 10 years. And so it's worth it for people to find out more about it. It isn't just Bitcoin. That was just the first example of the technology with a very specific use.
Exactly. It's like someone's talking about the internet and someone else is saying, well, I went on that AOL site and I didn't like it or something. It's like there's a lot more to the internet than AOL. They're confusing the underlying technology with just one instance of it. So similarly with blockchain. Blockchain is going to change our world.
Okay. Yeah, and in the meantime, I really do think that gold and silver is a great place to be when it comes to that lag of it catching up to that expansion of the fiat currency supply. And the whole world has gone crazy because Keynesian economists are basically crazy. They're under some very fallacious beliefs. They have been misled by their education, and they don't understand that the true wealth is all of us creating goods and services for each other. That's the wealth. And that the currency is a measurement tool and a temporary storage device for that value. And they think that they can fix things by just creating more currency. And they're wrong.
Right. You got it. It's never worked yet that they can spend their way into success. Hasn't worked for any country yet.
Right. Like I said, Venezuela would be the richest country on the planet. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. And do you have any last words for our listeners?
Just again, I've enjoyed meeting you. And before I met you, I had watched the first 5 of the Hidden Secrets of Money, and I really think you're onto something. And thank you for making what are complex philosophical questions accessible to the general public.
When people understand these economic processes and stuff, I feel like it gives them more power. I'm hoping that what I'm doing will change the way people vote, change the way they look at things, actually cause people to reevaluate some of their beliefs and so on, because that's when the world changes. And so, and the things that you're doing right now, Patrick, I want to thank you so much for what you're doing. One of the things, you had some very specific knowledge on some monetary history. When I first saw you in Washington, D.C., you were talking about some things that I'm sort of a monetary historian, but I didn't know some of the things that you were talking about. And have you got anything for our listeners about history repeating?
Well, your comparison with Rome is apt. We have in the last century, our dollar has lost 98% of its value or so against gold, precious metals. Is that
yeah?
Some 95, 98. It's been. I don't see. I know I sound like I'm suffering from creeping old fartism, but I don't see how this all hangs together for much longer. I have to say. I mean, I don't see how it hangs together for much longer. It seems we've our debt to GDP ratio and is over 100, and that's not even counting the unfunded liabilities, which make it sort of 500%, something absolutely unsustainable. I'm afraid to say I think it's going to take a crisis, but as Milton said, always have the next ideas ready so that when the crisis occurred, have the right ideas at hand, because that's when people are open to opening their minds and considering something, approaching problems in new ways. For me, the number one way to save the country is getting school choice. The educational system has inculcated, as Milton also used to say, a socialist school system will inculcate socialist values, and a free market system will inculcate freedom in children. And what we're seeing, this horrible thing where we had millennials embracing socialism, just know nothing folks, poor kids, not their fault. They never got an education, but it's just, it should be as disgusting to embrace socialism as to embrace Hitler, who of course was a socialist, a national socialist. But people don't have, anyway, so I guess I'm rambling.
Well, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing to try to help. Milton Friedman said, have those ideas ready when the next event happens. And you're influencing what those ideas are going to be. And that's what I am trying to do also. So thank you very much for everything you do out there and for having an effect. The stuff you're doing in Africa is absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much, Mike. Great talking to you.
It's great talking with you. Thanks.